Hello and welcome to the Too Much Apparently podcast. If you're new here, this is a podcast for the deeply feeling, overthinking, emotionally overloaded humans who've been told they're too much apparently. And if you're back, thanks for choosing to sit with us again.
We're Alice and Carly, two therapists who are also just sensitive weirdos trying to make sense of life, healing, and our own brains. This isn't a professional advice podcast. It's more like the messy, honest conversations that happen when you finally feel safe enough to say what you're really thinking.
This space is for people like us, the ones who've been called too sensitive, too serious, too emotional, too intense, and have spent way too long believing that it's true.
Okay, on with the episode. Today we're talking about being too busy to have fun. When did rest become something you have to earn?
The guilt of doing nothing, the scheduling of spontaneity, the constant feeling that you should be doing something productive.
So we're unpacking busyness, but not just in the just do less way, because that's not helpful when your nervous system is wired for hypervigilance.
It just becomes a strategy, a way to stay safe, to prove you're worthy, to avoid uncomfortable feelings.
If you've ever felt guilty for resting, cancelled plans to work, or genuinely forgotten what you do for fun, this one's for you.
Let's get into it.
Well, how much do you relate to the title of this episode, being too busy to have fun?
Very much.
Okay.
Very, very much. Very much. The way that I think about it is that autistic me is not interested in fun. Autistic me is not interested. I feel like I see lots of accounts of like autistic joy and it's all colourful and, playful and stuff like that. No, my shade of autism is read and tasks and lists and organise and plan.
Okay. And you don't find that fun?
I do find that fun. I think part of me finds that fun. And that's why I can forget to have fun. Like it almost doesn't occur to me that having fun is something that I should be doing. I don't even know why there's a should there.
Well, I feel like I wanted to check in on that because I can find organising things fun, which someone else might think of as busyness or being productive, but I can actually get a lot of enjoyment out of that as well. So I thought, I just wanted to check in. Does that then not feel fun? Because if it feels fun, then you are having fun.
Yeah. So I think it's come about because the last year or so, I've really been thinking about joy and fun and play and all those kinds of things. And just for years, it just wasn't part of my life. I just didn't have time for it. And as I've started to bring in, I think, creativity as well. So last year I did, someone was doing like little 15-minute creative sessions like on Zoom. One of them, she came with some paint samples and the task was to name, like, how paints have like colours. Do you know what I mean? Like if you go and choose paint for your walls, it's not just called like white or green. Like you'll have like the apple green or something
poetic paint names.
Yeah. So we had to come up with these names, and obviously some of the initial ideas were just like apple green or whatever, but then it might be like, I don't know, castles in the sky, and it was either like it was a yellow that would be like a shade of the beach or something like that. I just found that. Like that was fun. That's fun for me to do that. It just connected with something quite playful and young. And it sort of, I think that was really a catalyst for really important change in my life, which is about how do I reconnect with fun and play and creativity and doing something other than being productive all of the time. I do really relate to the title because my life is very busy. There's no way around that. And I have to remind myself when I'm scrolling through Instagram and we've got the next productivity hack or the next schedule of how I'm going to become this ideal person that I've got in my head. The reality is I've got 5 children. I've got a private practice. I'm also doing a master's degree and I do a podcast.
It's a lot of stuff.
I'm busy. Yeah, I'm busy a lot of the time. So I really have to make an effort to make time to have fun. How about you? What's it like for you?
Yeah, I feel like I have mixed reactions to the idea of being too busy to have fun. Because on the one hand, I don't relate to it. And then I think in another way, I do relate to it. For yeah, for different reasons. A lot of it is coming down to feeling, I think, rather than
Mm.
specific thoughts. And I think that's why I'm finding it difficult to articulate what I mean.
Mm.
But there's a felt sense of feeling too busy to have fun. I don't know if I'd change too busy to too overwhelmed to have fun,
Right.
even rather than
Yeah.
busyness. Because I've spent quite a lot of time really trying to have a good balance
Mm.
because of how much I need that balance. So I do create a lot of time for what I find fun and for me time. And I definitely have lots of times throughout the week, largely in the evenings, where I'm just doing something that I find fun, usually something creative that I'm just doing of an evening whilst watching TV. But I also, busyness leads to overwhelm, leads to struggling to kind of have fun, struggling to really feel settled in my body in order to be able to do some of the things that I want to do. It's making me think of different types of fun. And I think maybe what I mean is I do create space for certain types of fun. And I could say, I feel like I could even have an abundance of that type of fun. And I'm doing really well there. But I think there are other types of fun that get neglected because maybe they're more
Okay.
high effort or it involves more planning in order to be able to do that type of fun, which then I think I struggle to do. So I feel like my answer to that is like really quite complicated rather than, oh, yes
Mm.
or no. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
I'm really interested about. So when I was thinking about this episode, I was thinking, I don't think Carly struggles with this because Carly's always having fun. Like every time I go round to your house, you've made something new. Um, yeah, so I kind of see it as you do invest time in being creative and having fun in that way. But I'm really interested in the other ways. So maybe the fun that you're not having.
Yeah, I think I'm really good at having quiet fun.
Yeah.
And the loud fun,
Mm.
I think, is what gets neglected. And I'm really thinking of this as I am talking. So if it sounds a bit not well formed, I don't really think it is. I think by loud fun, I mean, I do enjoy getting out, seeing friends, going for the occasional meal, like seeing bands. I'd love to get out and see bands and stuff more. I'd love to go away on friend trips and girly trips, or I couldn't even tell you when I last like met with a friend to do like a walk in the Peak District. Or I feel like there are things that involve more being out of my house, being out with people, doing something, some sort of activity or thing together that in my head I'm classing more as loud fun. That's the
Okay.
only way I can think of to describe it. I mean, meeting with a group of friends for a walk in the Peak District might not be other people's idea of loud fun, but it is mine. Yeah, I do. I like all of that sort of stuff. And don't get me wrong, I don't like loads of it, then that becomes too much. But I think I'm missing that. I don't think I'm very good at making sure I'm fulfilling those kinds of needs. But the quiet fun that I like to have at home, reading a fantasy book, doing something crafty or creative, organizing something, I do find that fun. Playing a game on getting a new game on my Nintendo Switch and playing that for the weekend. I think I'm good at that. I've got that down now.
Yeah.
It's
Mm.
the loud fun. I need to find ways to do that.
Yeah. I love the idea of a walk in the Peak District being loud fun. I simultaneously know exactly what you mean and also find it really funny. And also I'm like, how have we not done that? Like we are either side of the Peak District.
Yeah, there's so many things that we could do, but we
Yeah.
don't do it. And that's
Yeah.
where the busyness part comes in because
Yeah.
when you have so much that you're holding in your head and so much that you've got to do, it's then hard to have the mental space to have the foresight and the
Yeah.
forward planning to this thing would be cool. What's needed to make this thing happen and to coordinate it with that person and then to get an actual date in and then for it to actually go ahead. And I
Yeah.
think that's why it's so easy for those things to just keep not happening, or where you have the intention for something to happen, or you say to a friend, oh, we'll have to do this, or oh, we'll have to do that. And then it never
Yeah.
actually manifesting.
Yeah. Yeah. That really makes me think about the adult struggle to schedule anything with a friend and trying to coordinate diaries and trying to find like when have we got time for this? Yeah, that
Yeah.
definitely gets in the way of doing things.
It
Uh,
frustrates me because I'm like, why is it this hard? I don't
yeah,
understand like why coordinating diaries is so hard.
yeah. So I was thinking about energy being, how does that come into play with being too busy to have fun? And part of me was like, well, that's not being too busy to have fun. That's being too tired to have fun. And we did an episode on being tired
Mm,
already. But also, I think it does because it's not just that I don't always have the energy for it, it's knowing that I have to be on form again next week.
yeah.
Like, I have to be there for my clients. I want to be there for my clients. I have to be there for my children. I have to be there for all these other things that I have to do. So it's almost like, so it's not like, oh, I'm so busy and I can't make time for it. It's the other way round. It's, I can't make time for it because I'm going to be so busy
Yep.
and I can't use up these spoons on, energy that I need to save for next week. And
Mhm.
that's really frustrating and that can be really boring.
Yeah, but it's a real issue, isn't it? When you know that your days are busy, you're almost trying to preserve your energy for the energy you've not spent yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it stops you from doing things in the now. Anyone that knows me will say, please don't schedule anything on a Sunday afternoon or evening. I absolutely don't want to be doing anything, having to go anywhere on a Sunday afternoon or evening, unless the next week's annual leave. Like, I'm not going to be there. Whereas other people would be like, oh, do you fancy going out for a drink Sunday evening? You would be like, oh, yeah, no problem. Even though they're up at work the next day, they wouldn't even bat an eyelid at that. Whereas, yeah, oh, no, thanks. I'm gonna say no to that. But
Yeah.
that's where you can't separate tiredness from busyness because then they're going to go hand in hand, whether that's I'm too tired or that's going to make me tired.
Yeah.
So you end up having to decline. And then once again, you're not able to do those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things I was struggling to think about is there have been times in my life where I have been a lot busier than I am now, even though I often still feel very busy. But, there was a time when I was doing my psychotherapy masters whilst also working as a nurse and then trying to do your placement hours that you have to rack up as a therapist, as well as everything else that carries on in life. And I'm trying to think, what did I do then? How did I manage doing all of that? And did I create space for fun? I'm not really sure. I mean, I did burn out and have to take a year out. So obviously it was a lot for me.
Mm.
But it probably comes down to a similar thing. I think I've been good at cultivating still the quiet fun and getting out less. And even though I am a real homebody, I love being at home, I can very easily be at home probably for a long period of time. And I have to remind myself that it's not actually healthy to be in this much Carly. You will feel better if you get out. That I think it's easy for me in those moments of busyness to retreat more into being in my home rather than making or trying to make an effort to be out in the world.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. I'm a definitely homebody, hermit even, I would say. Yeah, I'm most comfortable at home, but I'm also realizing how much I need to be out. So in December, I set myself a challenge. I don't know if I talked about it on the previous episodes. I set myself a challenge to walk for 40 minutes every day for 40 days for my 40th birthday because I'm 40 now. And that was really interesting to do that. And I even did the same walk every day. So when I started it, I was like, you can't just walk around that same park every single day. But that is pretty much what I've done just to fit in around the rest of my life. But even that's been really interesting. Like, most people that walk there are dog walkers. So I see all kinds of different dogs every day. And just like the changes in nature. Like one day I went and the lake was frozen over, so all the ducks were stood on the ice, and I was like, that looks really cool. I'm going to take some pictures of that. And
Mhm.
different time of day, so I love to go when the sun's setting, and just the different colours. So different sunsets on different days is the different colours. So yeah, that feels really important. I think I forget that I enjoy having fun or getting out or doing something different. So last year I went to a few gigs. So I went to the Lola Young one. I think that was in March. And I went to that and it was so good. It was so good. And I kind of came out of that feeling like, how have I lived without, this feeling of being jostled around in the crowd and, the music's so loud, you can feel it in your bones and, screaming along to the songs at the top of your lungs. And it just made me feel alive.
Mm.
That felt really good. And I did that a couple more times. So yeah, that feels really important to me. I think I just so easily get caught up in what needs doing.
Mhm.
Um, so I do like to kind of loop back to what you were saying before about, is it fun? Like there is part of me that wants to say yes. Like I could definitely have fun. I could probably have fun filing for an afternoon if I was able to color code it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could probably just sit and quietly enjoy that, rearrange my books in alphabetical order like a little librarian. I could definitely have.
The
I
way you
could,
said that then, like a little librarian.
I could definitely have fun doing that. But it's like I forget all the different ways to have fun, and actually the different ways that I need to have fun. That there is a very studious and organized part of me that likes things to be just so and likes things to be nicely planned. But there's also a wild side of me that feels like a bit of a strange word to use, but there is. Part of me is like, can you describe yourself as wild if you're a therapist? Well, I'm gonna,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, I'd love describing myself. I have a wild
Yeah,
side, but it might be a different wild to other people's wild.
yeah, yeah.
When I think of wild, I think of me dancing in the forest. I don't know
Yeah.
about that kind of wild.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess I just think about like just letting my hair down, and it's not like so. Part of me has got an image in my head of like being off my head on drink and drugs, or so. Like it's not,
Okay,
it's
not that
it's not
kind of
like that.
wild.
Like I don't think when I went to any of the gigs I had any alcohol. I didn't feel like I needed it because I was just having so much fun. But yeah, just like letting your hair down, letting go of the lists, letting
Mm.
go of what needs doing tomorrow, of being in the moment, really being in the moment.
There's nothing like that feeling of being in the moment and listening to you kind of like being high on life
Yeah.
and just feeling really connected. Well, for me, anyway, I think that high on life feeling more comes from feeling really connected with people around me or connected with my environment and the planet and my surroundings. But it's a really nice feeling that we need to have a lot more of. Yeah, I'm kind of holding two things here. One of them is some people genuinely have crazily busy lives where it is very hard to find time for fun. And then I think there are those of us where, yeah, we are busy, but the reason we don't have time for fun is where we're maybe prioritizing how we're spending our time and fun gets put to the bottom of the list, where actually we could find more time for fun if we were okay with letting some things slide or not being as on top of things. And then I guess the third thing that I'm now thinking is for those of us where the busyness is self created, where we have grown up with a value of what it means to be productive and maybe fun not being in the category of productive. And we create our busyness because we're not able to take that step back and do other things that don't feel like a productive use
Mm.
of our times, that kind of more than compulsive busyness, which I don't know about you, but I see that side a lot. I see it in people in my life of friends, family, people I work with. Articles are written about it all the time. I think the one that gets spoken about the most is this constant need to be productive and struggling to stop.
Yeah. Do you relate to that?
No.
Okay. Yeah. See, it was interesting because you listed out your three categories, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm that one. Oh, I'm that one. Oh, I'm that one.
I'm all of them.
Yeah. So I feel like I fit into all three somehow. I'm trying to think like there's no childhood message really. So when I look at my parents, do they have fun? And they definitely did have fun. But I'm not sure I got given that message clearly enough. I
Mm.
think because I was praised so much for being clever and for reading that, yeah, I just have this default setting of that's what I'm supposed to be doing is being studious, even if I'm not studying. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's brought to mind actually. So I have a younger sister. She's 15, last year of school. So she's doing all of her revision for GCSEs and things like that at the moment. But a couple of times I've kind of heard my dad say, let's try and get all your revision like smashed out in the week so that we can have fun on the weekends. And so rather than it being you must be productive every day, get your head down, these exams are important, you must sit at that desk every day, make sure you revise, it's how can we make sure that you're doing enough of what you need to do, but also make sure we're creating space for you to have rest from that and kind of have fun. And it's those sorts of messaging maybe that we might get parents in terms of is it okay for them to have fun but not us? Or is it okay for both? Or are we allowed to have too much fun? And then the wider societal views, which, of course, growing up in a capitalist society and ever since the Industrial Revolution has very much been about work and servitude and being productive and being praised for being a hard worker. Nobody
Mm.
gets praised for being a hard
Funner.
funner. So there's just so much messaging around that being a good value, a good thing to do, a good thing to be. And at the other side, and actually nowadays, there's so much in the media around younger people are lazy, younger people don't want to work, young people aren't going to jobs because of this, or their boss said no for they can't go away for this wedding, so they've handed their notice in. And now there's this big rhetoric about the anti-hard workers
Yeah.
that people are annoyed about and resentful about. Whereas I'm kind of, no, they're I feel like younger generations are now realizing why am I want to spend the majority of my life working hard in my job? It's not laziness from my perspective. I think it's more actually I value my job and I value my free time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, like, from a payoff perspective, like, it's just not worth it. I think, in times gone by when you got, you had a job for life and a final salary pension and you could buy a house on one salary and, have fun with whatever other money was coming into the house. Whereas now, you're expected to give up your soul for a job that will drop you in 5 minutes. And yeah, that you can't even buy the things that would have been considered fairly basic 20, 30 years ago. Yeah, no, I'm totally with Gen Z on this. And it links back to what we were talking about in the existential episode as well. Part of this journey for me has been about, so I said in that episode that I went away and asked people, what was it that made their lives meaningful? And it was like simple joys, the everyday simple joys, like little bits of fun, little moments of connection, or all those different kinds of fun. Yeah. So when I was growing up, the message was never direct. Like, it wasn't, my parents didn't say, like, sit down at your desk and do this. They weren't like that. But I was praised a lot for being clever. And there was very much the expectation that I was going to go to university and I was going to become a lawyer or a doctor or something like that. That was going to be my life. And I've still had a clear picture in my mind back then. And I can still see that version of me in my head. And there isn't room for fun in her
Mm.
life. She works really hard. She dresses really smart. She's very polite. She doesn't really have emotions. She achieves. She's the best one that anyone's ever heard of. And yeah, but there isn't really any fun. There aren't really any relationships, friendships.
Mm.
There's nothing. Like, the praise was just for being clever and therefore being smart enough to have an impressive job. And that was it. That was the kind of long and short of it.
Hmm.
So it's not really a surprise that I don't automatically think about having fun. It feels rebellious in some way to have fun, which feels almost silly to say, but I almost feel like it is. I just feel like the message about performance and productivity is just so constant in society that, like, especially as like a wife and mother, for me to be like, "Ugh, forget the hoovering, we're going to go to the beach." Like, it feels reckless.
Yeah. Well, you do. You hear people say, oh, I was a bit naughty yesterday. I didn't get anything done. And
Oh,
there is a lot around that sort of messaging, isn't there?
yeah, it makes me want to scream. And so that reminds me of something that I said to my husband a few weeks ago. I said, I feel like the choices for me are to be, this is very black and white.
Okay.
I was in a bit of a mood when I said it. I'll own that before I say it. But I said, like, I feel like my choices are to be like a failure as a woman or to be like the stereotypical nag. Like either I've got to be so like if I want to achieve everything that a woman is expected to achieve, I have to work myself so hard that I become resentful and bitter and not very
Mm.
nice to be around and resentful of anybody else having fun. Or I can't do it, or I can't stay on top of the housework, or I can't be the outstanding businesswoman that I could be, or I can't be the perfectly attuned gentle parenting mother that I really should be by now. you know there's just so much pressure, and I just think back to like teenage me when it was all girl power and you can have it all. And yeah, just realizing now, like, no, there's
Mm.
just way too much way too much pressure. And so, yeah, so it feels like a rebellion to reclaim some space for fun and not feel guilty about it. Because I think that's a massive thing that I hear a lot of. And, both in my practice and in society, is women in particular. I don't think I ever hear men talking about this. Women in particular feeling guilty for taking time for themselves.
Massively, massively. And that's the thing that comes up so much for people, particularly the third group of people that I was speaking about. You said group, you relate to all of them. So maybe everyone's just in one big group. But when you can't feel okay unless you have been productive to a certain level
Mm.
or you feel guilty, yeah, it just comes up so much. And I think that's why I struggled a little bit with this episode about my relatability, because I would say over the years, it's something that I have found. I want to be very clear what I'm about to say isn't directed at like everybody or people that I work with or anything like that. Actually, it's more like I can hold compassion and empathy for people I work with, but I can't for people in my life. I do get a bit irritated actually sometimes when people are perpetually keeping themselves busy and not taking time for rest, or they would feel guilty. And I kind of just want to, I don't know, I kind of just want to like shake people and be like, come on, like life is so short. And I guess people are just different. But when a friend says to me, oh, I've got a week off work next week, and I'm thinking, oh, that's nice. How are you using your week? And someone says, oh, I'm using it to redecorate the whole house. I'm kind of thinking, that's not a week off. That's not a week off.
Yeah.
But I know those same people, if they didn't use that week off for something, if they went back to work with nothing to tell people what they did with that week off, that's a waste, and that's not a good thing. If you can't
Yeah.
say, I got this done during my week off, then
Mm.
that's bad. And it's so hard for me to wrap my head around that.
Yeah. Yeah. My brain's just doing that thing where it tries to run off in three different directions. And I'm like, I can't go after all three of you. Yeah. I think I'm getting stuck because in my head, I'm thinking about people that are busy to avoid their emotions. And also, it sounds like that's what you were talking about is slightly different. That it's about feels like it's caught up in judgment from others. So what are other people going to think about what I did with my spare time?
Yeah.
And I don't think I relate to that one so much because I think, like I said in the boring episode, like I don't really care what people think about what I do with my time. I don't really care.
Just to clarify, the episode isn't boring.
Oh, what is it?
No, because the way you said that, like, well, I spoke about that in the boring episode. Like, that's a boring one. Don't bother listening to that. Rather than an
It is far too
episode.
boring, though, isn't it?
It's
Too
is it
boring.
is that too boring to have? I can't even remember
I
what it
think it might
is.
be too boring to have fun. I think it is. A
Yeah,
boring episode.
it's the way you said it. Like, it's not boring, guys. Listen to it.
But yeah, I don't really care what people think. If people think I'm boring, I'm not bothered about that. If I'm enjoying my time, that's what matters to me. But yeah, again, I do hear people talking about what other people are going to think about what they have or haven't done with their time.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of talking through now reasons as to why people might struggle with this in the first place.
Yeah.
I noticed in preparation for the episode, you kind of wrote down some core ones, and maybe we could have a look at some of those.
The two that really stand out for me, or what came to mind when you were talking about people that create busyness, are the first one that comes to mind is avoiding emotions.
Mm,
That's what I often think about. It is busyness as some kind of avoidance.
yeah. I think, particularly with those who are prone to anxiety,
Yeah.
anxious thoughts, ruminating, head not being quiet, I think keeping
Mhm.
busy can be a way to silence the mind.
Yeah. And I think about that with when people struggle to sleep as well. It's
Mm,
like, so when you lie down and your brain's just going and going, like, how do you switch from going and going and going all day to being asleep? Like, there needs to be some kind of bridge. And that's where the emotions start to, or the thoughts start to come up. And I think that can be overwhelming then, can't it? If you've been running for so long to avoid this emotion, yeah, at some point you've got to stop and it is going to come up.
mm,
And yeah, I like doing that work in therapy. I think that's some
yeah.
of my favorite work to do,
Yeah,
is
I'd
to
agree
show
with that.
people actually how safe it can be to feel emotions, to kind of like dip into it a little bit and then come back out of it. Or, yeah, I love doing that work.
Yeah, well, because if you do keep yourself busy, firstly, any time you stop, the emotions you're avoiding will make themselves known.
Yeah.
And secondly, if it's more about anxious rumination, your brain not stopping, kind of going round and round, then you can't develop the skills to quieten that,
Yeah.
to be less in your thoughts if you keep using, but you're going to have to stay busy forever,
Yeah.
or you will always have the problem.
Yeah.
And so these are great techniques. Like, they work. There's a reason why so many of us
Yeah.
do it, but it's about recognizing, okay, but you will then have to stay busy forever.
Yeah. And also, there's really a loop there, because I know for me in the past and for other people I know, it's often then like, oh, well, I'll deal with it when XYZ, and XYZ never comes, or it does come, but then the next thing comes in to fill the space, because that's the strategy, is staying busy. So you're always going to find ways to stay busy unless you intentionally create the time to feel the feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the first one that comes up for me. So the other one that comes up for me is about the proving your worth, is really tied up. Well, I guess the image that I was saying about before is about being the good girl, is about being there. And I don't just see this in women, I do see this in men as well, but is, yeah, being that compliant child, that doing the right thing, not getting told off, being a good girl, being a good boy. And so constantly pressing to like do the next thing, the right thing, being impressive,
Yeah.
things like that. And what I see a lot of with that group of people is they very rarely stop when they've achieved something. So
No.
they never really get the payoff of what they're working hard towards. It's like as soon as they've finished what they can do, they're on to the next thing. So there's no celebrating like the mark that they got on that essay, or the grade that they got for their degree, or, it's, yeah, on to the next thing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that is one of the points that I relate to the
Mm,
most in terms
mm,
of busyness,
mm.
because anyone that knows me will always say, and what is it you're doing now? Because I'm always on to the next thing.
Excellent.
I think I stay very busy intellectually rather than in terms of physical things that I'm doing around the house and that kind of stuff. I'm
Mm,
quite happy to let washing pile up. But the next course I'm going to do and do very well, that is
mm,
definitely where this episode I relate to. What I see a lot in work that I've done over the years in various roles really is people who keep very busy because being still feels dangerous. I think if you grow up in a home that you might describe as traumatic, where you grow up in chaos, where there is no quiet, where there is no stillness, then conversely, stillness and quiet can feel very threatening to your nervous system because it's
Yeah.
something it is not familiar with.
Mm.
And so you can end up keeping busy or even creating chaos, creating more problems for you to solve or more things to do. Anything really to avoid feeling still.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost like creating, like even in creating chaos, it's like creating predictability because it's
Mm,
chaos you've created. So you kind of know what to expect rather than just sitting in that silence and feeling like, when's the other shoe going to drop?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'd say the other reason people might struggle with this is control, feeling a need to be in control in a way that is, well, nearly always anxiety driven. So, kind of anxiety driven control, whereas we can feel safe and comfortable in ourselves when we have this illusion that if we just work hard enough, we can control the outcomes, we can stop something unexpected happen. If we struggle to sit with uncertainty and we have a lot of what ifs, then that can present itself as compulsive busyness, compulsive productivity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just actually, one thing I want to add into that, and you touched upon it a bit, but I think this is really important. For many of us, particularly our generation, we grew up with very busy mums,
Mm.
mums who didn't sit down and take 5 minutes for themselves. And I also think when you have grown up in a household where your mum didn't stop because they carried all of the childcare labor, all of the domestic and homemaker labor, also our generation more likely to also be having a job at the same time as taking care of every single thing that women hold, all the mental load of everything that needs to happen with kids in the house. That level of busyness means many of us, and I certainly know I did, grew up with a mom who did not stop.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we've grown up with that modeling from our parent, not their fault whatsoever, but that's
Right.
kind of what we observed and kind of grown up with, then we also inherently then have the message that as women, like we don't stop. We have
Yeah.
to do everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I really thought that the the conversation had shifted or that life had moved on or that we see things differently. And I feel like there is a degree of that, but also I think it's exactly the same. I just think
Mm.
it's exactly the same. Like I think all of those like mumstagrams, where they've got pristine houses and they're doing all these wholesome activities and day trips and, whatever else. It's just there again, just this impossible expectation. And I actually think it was part of the relief of starting my master's was really having to accept that I can't keep on top of everything anymore. Like I can't, like it
Yeah.
is literally impossible for me to do that. Yeah. But it is so uncomfortable. And even though I, in so many ways, reject that is the women's role, like my husband is absolutely hands on. He does more childcare and domestic stuff than I do, but he doesn't feel the shame about it. He
Mm.
doesn't, he doesn't get cleaning reels on his Instagram or parenting ones, really. Whereas I was watching a reel the other day that said if if you go round to a family's house and the house is a mess or the children aren't well kept, it's the woman that will get judged more than the man.
Mhm. Oh,
And
yeah.
I think there's a problem in that in itself because I think men are seen as incapable or a bit useless. But yeah, there just isn't that same shame. And then that shame can be really motivating to be busy or if not to be busy about it, to be anxious about it.
Hmm.
Um, because I'm less likely to like jump up and start hoovering, and I'm much more likely to be like, right, we need a plan. We need another plan. Let's draw up another cleaning rota. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just think modern life is not it's not workable. Full stop.
I mean, yeah, I think that is absolutely clear and something I wholeheartedly believe in. But I do really I like when you come across accounts that are giving off a different narrative. And I know it's not going to work for everybody, but with what you were just saying, it reminded me of a reel I saw recently. like a mum account, but it said something like, I'm a mum, don't have time for hobbies. But then it showed the flip of that, about that not being true. And it was just clips of, so she's got a little boy who I would guess is maybe 7. And it was them both reading a book, but at the opposite ends of the sofa at the same time. There was both them doing something else at the same time. Then there was another one of them both playing on the 2 computers in the same room, a video game, but at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And it just showed all these little clips of her engaging in her hobbies at the same time as her son was engaging in his. And it was great that a lot of them were the same, but some of them were different, what they were doing in the room at the same time.
Yeah.
It was such a cute reel, but I really enjoyed that. And I don't think the takeaway from that should be you should all be doing this and you should find ways to have your hobbies with your children. But it was nice to see someone saying, look, in some scenarios that there are ways that you can still have hobbies as a parent.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, I'm a really big advocate for mums taking time for themselves. I think it is absolutely essential. And I extend this to women as a whole, not just mums. Absolutely essential for women's well-being to take time for themselves. I think part of this is from having grown up with a mum that's done everything, and that understandably leads to feeling resentful about it and what it's like to be around a resentful parent or person. It's just not very nice. So I didn't want to perpetuate that in my own family.
So sorry, just to jump in me, it brought about guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would feel a lot of guilt that my mum didn't have time, that my mum couldn't sit down, that my mum couldn't do this and my mum couldn't do that. And then I took that on.
Yeah.
Where I then still feel that guilt when my mum does something nice for me, where I want to say, oh, no, I'm okay. I don't need your help. I don't need your help, because I just carry all this guilt for how much she had to give up in her life. So it's also about not passing that guilt onto your child as well.
Yeah. So I do think it's really important to do that. There is like, the video sounds so nice, and there is the really cynical part of me that's just like, well, it's fine if you've got 1 kid, try doing that with 3.
Of course.
My older 2 are adults, so they'll do their own thing, but trying to do it with 3 that have got completely different, and it's not always like that. Like sometimes, we will all do something really lovely together, and those moments are great. But no, I'm a massive advocate for women intentionally, as an act of anti-patriarchy, taking time for themselves, modeling to, and not to make it another thing that women should do, but modeling to men and to children that women are allowed to take time for themselves. I just think it's so important.
Yeah,
really
especially if you've got
important.
boys.
Right. Yeah. I feel like there was something else, but it's gone out of my head. Yeah. I kind of feel hustle culture's died out a little bit. I feel like at the start of the pandemic, I feel like hustle culture was huge. Like there were loads of female entrepreneurs particularly, selling their massive course and telling you how much money you can make. And I just really remember this feeling of like, level up, level up, level up. And I just feel like a lot of people are kind of over that now. I see a lot more, and maybe it's just algorithm because of the stuff that I'm clicking on, but I do see a lot more about slow living and rejecting hustle culture. And like, I feel like just the word hustle produces a visceral response in my body of like, get away from me.
Oh, no, thank you.
I'm not interested in the hustle. I'm not interested in the grind. I don't care what the payoff is. That is not the life for me. I'll go without.
I do still think hustle culture is a big thing.
Okay.
But I think there's a counter to it now. I think before there wasn't a counter and everything was hustle culture. Whereas I still think it's still very strong in that community. But I think there are other voices now. And I think those voices are getting louder, and we are a part of those voices.
Right. Yeah. Well, I suppose I'm thinking about some particular people, and every single one of them after the sort of, it was kind of 2019, 2020, maybe tipping into 2021, every single one of them has reached a point of burnout.
Yeah.
Not any of them have been able to sustain that. And I feel angry about that sometimes.
Mm.
Because then they've found different ways to come back and be like, oh well, you can give me your money this way, or you can give me your money this way. And I know, they're just trying to live their lives. They're just trying to achieve their dreams. That's fine. But I don't like the manipulative marketing that can come in that adds to this feeling of, yeah, you've just got to work harder, work harder, work harder. I
Mm.
don't think that's what it is. I don't think that's what makes people feel fulfilled. Don't get me wrong. I think, having grown up with not a lot of money, I know what that's like. And money does help. It absolutely does
Oh, yeah.
help. In terms of happiness, it does to an extent, but it's not the be all and end all. It's not. And I think that's kind of how I was raised in a way. It was like, if you can have this fancy job and earn a lot of money, you'll be happy. But I think
Mhm.
what I find is people that do that, so they do earn a lot of money, but they're still not. They still don't
Not
feel
happy.
how they want to feel. And I think this is so to kind of go back to the title of the episode about being too busy to have fun, I have to purposely remind myself that there is no place that I can work myself to that will feel fun.
Yeah, or we're like, and now I get to have fun.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, that place is never going to arrive. I have to purposely choose it. I have to
Yeah.
make space for it. And I don't have to earn it. I don't have to earn the
No.
fun. I could just have the fun, and the busyness will always be there.
And the same with rest. You don't have to earn
Yeah.
rest or have rest be your reward.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so I think the other thing that plays into this for me, and I think maybe this is an ADHD thing, is like not being able to manage my time very well, or like
Mm.
by which I mean, not that I'm late for things because I'm too anxious about being late, so I turn up early, but I underestimate how long things are going to take me,
Mhm.
and then I can take on way more than I think I can handle. So then I'm
Yeah.
so busy because I've committed to so many things. And then there's not a lot of time. Or if there is any time, I'm exhausted. I'm too exhausted to have any fun.
Mhm.
And then there's just
Yeah.
Emmerdale and Coronation Street. That's it.
Yes. Yeah. It's like I've often been described, and I don't even like this saying. It gives me an icky feeling, but I've been described as someone who has their fingers in a lot of pies. That is an icky saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
like it. It's like, ugh, gives me a weird feeling in my body. I don't like it. But yes, for
Yeah.
similar reasons,
Mm.
thinking that I can take on more than what I actually can. And then
Yeah.
feeling like there's something wrong with me because I can't maintain or do all those
Yeah.
things. And that's another thing I've now got to quit or let someone down about or stop
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. And I do still find that hard. I think that is still a new thing that I'm getting to grips with. Like, I'm definitely in a space at the moment where I know I can't take on anything else. I cannot take on anything new at the moment.
Yeah. But it is
But
helpful when we can realize that.
yeah, yeah. But
Mhm.
also, what I've got in my head is, but wait till it's spring. Wait till it's spring and the days get longer, and your
Mhm.
circadian rhythm is different because there's more sunshine. You're going to take on something else. And then it's just about compassion, isn't it? Then it's about having compassion for myself, that this is something that is a struggle for me because I just get so excited about things.
Yeah, well, there's so many cool things that you can do and learn about. I mean, if I
Mm-hmm.
had more time, there would be, well, more time and money. There would be so many things that I would do
Mm-hmm.
that I would love to learn. But I think what you said earlier was really important. And you said it, and then we kind of carried on. But I wanted it to land a little bit more actually, because I thought it was really helpful. You said you're never going to busy yourself to fun. And so you actively have to decide to choose fun in the
Yeah.
now. And I
Yeah.
think that's something worth just sitting with and thinking about,
Mm-hmm.
because unless we can take a moment to pause, reflect on how we're spending our time, how we feel about how we're spending our time, and trying to do so from a place of compassion rather than judgment. And then knowing that there is no time in the future when you can address this,
Mm-hmm.
and stopping and thinking about it now. Actually, I deserve to have space in my life, whether I want to use that for rest, whether I want to use that for connection, whether I want to use that for fun, or any other needs that get put on the back burner,
Mm.
that finding a way to choose that in the now when you can, and fully appreciating that some people have more access to that choice than others.
Yeah.
Some people do have more, what would you call it, time privilege, I guess. And for
Mm.
some people, that might feel like a really difficult thing to try and find time,
Yeah.
to do. But we can start on a very small level, yeah,
Yeah.
microscopic level if you need to,
Yeah.
where you're taking
Mm.
5 minutes. I once knew someone who transformed a cupboard upstairs on their landing to a mini mum rest escape room with blankets and cushions and fairy lights in. Where it could
Amazing.
just be like, shut the door now. Ooh, okay. I think
Yeah.
there are little pockets, whether metaphorical or maybe physical, little pockets, little spaces where we can just take time for ourselves and know that,
Mm.
again, doesn't have to be perfect. And some tasks can wait. I think there are a lot of things that we say, oh, it's important to get this done, it's important to get that done. Whereas if we actually think about it, so many things are not important, like at all. Like the
Yeah.
world won't end because the socks haven't been folded. So having that conversation maybe with ourselves.
Yeah. I think they're two of the main stoppers that I see in people. One is guilt, that they feel guilty for taking the time at all, which, yeah, again, for me, that comes from the rebellious place of like, I'm not going to be held down by the patriarchy. I will take 5 minutes for myself. But the other is about status as well. And
Mm.
I think there is, if the main place or the only place that you feel like you have status in your life is in busyness, then it's going to be really hard to give it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think there's some work around how do you feel like a worthwhile human being if you're not this busy, if you're not the one folding the socks. I'm like, do we fold socks? Mine just get lobbed in a bag.
I don't fold socks. I do the whole turn them inside out on each other thing. I'm glad that you named that. There was a time with me, particularly relating to keeping busy through achievement. There was a time when not doing that felt threatening to my identity.
Mm,
And I had a therapist once say, Carly, what would it be like to just be still?
yeah.
Couldn't fathom it. Well, I wanted to be like, no, absolutely not. And from a doing perspective, that is still something that I kind of struggle with. But when something does feel threatening to our identity, to our sense of self, to our self worth, I feel like there's lots of things we've spoken about today where some of it maybe sounds simpler than what it actually is.
Mm,
And also that with a lot of this stuff, there's going to be more stuff underneath
yeah.
that we will need to address so that then maybe we can look at this.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, you could make yourself really busy trying to figure it all out, or you could just take 5 minutes for yourself.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Just before
yeah.
we end, could I plug something here?
You absolutely can. Tell us about it.
My brand spanking fancy new website is launching soon. Should be launching in February. Don't have a date yet, but just February. And with that, I am also launching 2 newsletters. One of them just for the everyday person, and the other one is for if you run a business. There are 2 freebies that I have designed that you get when you sign up to the newsletter, and they are really appropriate for what we've been talking about this session. So, just in case someone think they might find it helpful, firstly, just for the professional side, I have developed a sustainable practice audit that gives you the opportunity to really look at your business and your values and where you're spending your time and how sustainable you feel like your practice is. If you're somebody that values work life balance and wants to try to not be super crazy busy within your business, then that could be a helpful starting point. But the other one is I've developed something called the pause framework, and it's a nervous system approach to rest and slower living. Later in the year, it's going to be released as a course. But in the meantime, I've created something to get people started. So if you are somebody who values slower mornings, quiet weekends, cups of tea that are actually enjoyed whilst they're still warm, but you're finding it really hard to actually do that or create the time and space for those things, yeah, then this freebie helps you to start to look into that.
That's good. I think it sounds amazing.
Yeah, if you feel that might be something that could be helpful, then check it out. It's free. I was joking with Alice just before the call how most freebies you get from newsletters sound really good. And then when you get it, it's kind of like a really low effort sort of 4 or 5 page thing. Whereas what I've designed in my usual overdoingness, they're like nearly like 20 pages full. There's actually quite a lot of value in them if I do say so myself.
Well, I'm excited to see them. I'm going to sign up for these to have
Please
a good look
do.
at them. Yeah,
You
I
can be
will.
my first newsletter subscriber as well, which speaks to similar things.
Wonderful.
So if you're someone who's always busy, who feels guilty for resting, who's forgotten what fun even feels like, you're not lazy, you're not failing. You're just trying to survive in a world that told you your worth was in your doing and not in your being.
The work isn't about becoming someone who never works hard. It's about learning that rest isn't something you have to earn, that you're allowed to exist without producing, that fun isn't frivolous, it's essential.
Next time, we're diving into 2 in my head to feel secure, when your brain won't stop analysing your relationship, the tone, the signals, the what ifs.
We'll talk about relationship anxiety, rumination, and that feeling of never quite being able to relax into love, even when things look okay on the outside.
But for now, we'll leave you with this.
What would it feel like to do something fun this week without justifying it, without it being productive, without earning it first? That's all from us today. If this episode made you feel a bit less alone, the best way to help us reach more people is to subscribe, rate the podcast, and follow Too Much Apparently on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Those simple clicks help other sensitive humans find us when they need it most. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon.